I was so tired. Driving back to my dorm after work, my eyes kept wanting to close. It was my junior year of college, and I was always running on fumes. Maybe 4 hours of sleep a night with classes and 2 jobs. The road ahead seemed to blur and sway. Then, all at once, I felt something touch my head. 5 distinct fingers, like someone was sitting in the back seat and running their hand through my hair, moving upwards. A cold dread shot through me. I was completely alone in the car. The feeling changed. It wasn't just a touch anymore. It felt like those fingers were tightening on the back of my head, gripping me hard. Suddenly, my head yanked back, a sharp, forceful pull. It happened just in time. I snapped awake, my eyes wide with terror, and saw that I was drifting out of my lane, heading straight for a huge tree at the side of the road. I jerked the steering wheel, my heart hammering, I narrowly avoiding a crash. But the grip on my head didn't let go. For the rest of the drive back to campus, I could feel those fingers pressed against my skull, holding my head firmly. It was a strange, terrifying paralysis. I could barely move my head to check my mirrors. It felt like something was forcing me to keep looking straight ahead. Panic clawed at my throat. Who was in my car? What was happening to me? Finally, as I pulled into the parking lot by my dorm, the pressure on my head eased. The invisible fingers loosened their hold, and the strange paralysis vanished. I could move my head freely again. Then, another wave of the bizarre washed over me. The air in my car filled with a smell, cherry pipe tobacco. It was a strong, sweet, and smoky scent. I don't smoke. I never have. And I have a strict rule, no smoking in my car. But that smell, it was so familiar. My favorite uncle, my godfather, had passed away a month after I started college. He always smoked a pipe, and cherry tobacco was his absolute favorite. A shiver ran down my spine. Could it have been him? Was he in the car with me, somehow pulling my head back, saving me from hitting that tree? It was around 2 a.m. when I left my boyfriend's house, where he was house sitting. The streets were empty, quiet. The only sound was the low hum of my moped as I rode home. My usual route took me near our town cemetery. It's the kind of place people whisper about, calling it haunted. I never had anything really bad happen there myself, and I wasn't scared of it, at least, not until that night. As I reached the intersection right next to the cemetery, the light was red. I stopped and waited. The problem is, mopeds are too light to trigger the sensors in the road, so the light didn't change. I was the only person out there, not a single car in any direction. I didn't mind, though. I liked the empty roads. There was something peaceful about it. Until I looked into my rearview mirror. There was movement. Quick, like a shadow shifting. Then I saw her. A woman. She stood just 4 feet behind me. Her body was partly see-through, glowing slightly in the dark. Her skin was gray and peeling, her eyes empty and sunken deep into her skull. Her long black hair hung wet and heavy, and her mouth looked like it had been sewn shut. I froze. She was staring right at me. I didn't even think. I gunned the throttle and ran the red light without a second thought. I didn't care if I got a ticket. I needed to get away from her. Fast. My hands were shaking, and I was riding way too fast for how dark it was. I hit a small ditch on the side of the road, and my moped stalled out. My heart stopped for a second. I thought she had followed me. I was ready to abandon the moped and run, but I somehow managed to get it started again and tore off down the road. I made it home in record time. I never saw her again, but I'll never forget that face in my mirror. I don't think she wanted to hurt me, but she wasn't human anymore. And now, every time I ride at night, I avoid that cemetery, just in case she's still waiting. It was around midnight when we got home. We had just come back from a long drive, tired, a little restless, and ready to sleep. I was 14 at the time. My parents went straight to bed, but I stayed up, scrolling on my phone in the dark. My window was open just a crack. The night air was cool and still. At first, I heard voices outside. Nothing strange, people sometimes walk by late at night in our neighborhood. But this time, the voices got louder and closer. It was like a group was right outside my house, maybe even on the front porch. I could hear laughter, talking, the sound of drinks clinking, like a party was going on. But there was no music. No footsteps. No car. And strangely, no one else in the house reacted. I paused my phone and listened harder. The voices kept getting louder, almost like they were trying to get my attention. It made the hairs on my neck stand up. I felt like I should say something, shout at them to be quiet. But something felt wrong. I finally got up, heart pounding, and slowly walked to the window. The moment I touched the blinds, everything went dead silent. The sudden quiet was worse than the noise. Then, in the distance, over at the cemetery across the street, a bright white light started flashing on and off like a broken strobe. There was no pattern, no sound. Just this cold, pulsing light. It went on for maybe 10 seconds, then stopped. And that's when it happened. A scream, sharp, high-pitched, and full of pain, ripped through the night. It was so loud and so real that I covered my ears and dropped to the floor. It didn't sound human. It sounded like something being torn apart. My ears rang for minutes afterward. But the worst part? No one else woke up. Not my parents. Not my siblings. The whole house was silent, like nothing had happened. But I know what I heard. What I saw. I slammed my window shut that night and locked it tight. And I haven't opened it since. Whatever was out there wasn't meant to be heard. It wasn't while I was driving, but it was in my car, and it still haunts me. Years ago, I worked late nights at an office building that emptied out by 6 p.m. Most nights, I was the last one there, the lights dimmed, the halls quiet enough to hear my own footsteps echo. The parking lot behind the building was poorly lit, just a few flickering lamps casting long, weird shadows. I parked in the same spot every night, near the back, under one of those broken lights that buzzed but barely glowed. That's where it started. The first time, I just finished a long shift and trudged to my car, exhausted. I started it up, flipped on the headlights, and glanced in my rearview mirror to back out. There was a man. An old man, standing directly behind my car, no more than a few feet away. Pale skin, sunken cheeks, silver hair hanging lank around his face. He just stood there, staring at me, expressionless. Not moving. Not blinking. I jumped, instinctively turned around to look out the back window, ready to yell or apologize. But when I looked, there was no one there. The lot was empty. Completely empty. I even got out to check. Nothing. I told myself it was a trick of the light. Maybe I was just tired. But it kept happening. Every time I worked late. Every time I was the last one in the building. I'd get into my car, start it up, glance at the mirror, and there he'd be. Always the same distance. Always staring. Eyes too wide, too dark. Every single time I turned around to look, gone. The moment I broke eye contact through the mirror, he'd vanish. Eventually, I stopped checking. I couldn't take the adrenaline spike anymore. I'd just put the car in reverse and drive, refusing to look. I don't work there anymore, but sometimes, even now, I get into my car at night and catch myself hesitating before looking in the mirror. My breath catches. My fingers pause over the ignition. I haven't seen him since I left that job. But every time I back up in the dark, I wonder, what if he followed? And what if this time, when I turn around, he's not gone? I was just a kid, 10 years old. Back in the early 90s. We lived in a really small, safe town in New Jersey. My parents let me wander around by myself for hours, and I loved it. One day, I was walking home from the library, taking my usual route that went past the old cemetery. I liked walking through there. It felt peaceful, even a little mysterious. I'd been out for about an hour, maybe a bit more. As I was walking, my eyes landed on a gravestone. It had a statue of an angel on top, its stone wings spread wide. That's when it happened. I didn't actually hear a voice with my ears. Instead, it was like a thought that wasn't my own, clear and strong in my mind. Run. Run home now. It wasn't my voice, and it wasn't my usual kind of thinking. It felt urgent, terrifying. I had never experienced anything like it before. Without even thinking, I just took off. I ran faster than I ever had in my life, my legs pumping, my breath coming in gasps. I didn't know why I was running, but that feeling of panic in my mind wouldn't let me stop. I burst through our front door, and the first thing that hit me was a thick cloud of smoke. It stung my eyes and filled my lungs. My dad was downstairs. He'd started cooking something on the stove and then it seemed had forgotten all about it and gone upstairs for a nap. He was still sound asleep. The thing he was cooking in the frying pan was on fire. Flames were licking up the sides of the pan and the smoke was getting thicker by the second. I realized with a jolt of horror that if I had arrived even a few minutes later, the kitchen would have been engulfed in flames. And very quickly, the whole house would have gone up. There was no smell of smoke outside, no sign of danger. It was all contained within that frying pan, a deadly secret about to explode. I quickly grabbed some oven mitts, found a lid, and slammed it down on the burning pan, smothering the flames. Then I ran upstairs, where my dad was still snoring peacefully. I shook him awake, my voice trembling as I told him everything that had happened. He was groggy but quickly understood the danger. We went downstairs together, and he made sure everything was completely safe. Later, we realized just how close we had come to disaster. There was absolutely no smoke alarm going off downstairs. If I hadn't gotten that strange, urgent message and run home when I did, the fire would have spread. The house would have burned down, and my dad, still asleep, would have been in terrible danger. Maybe even worse. I still don't know what sent that thought into my head. Was it the angel on the grave? Was it some kind of guardian looking out for us? All I know is that something, or someone, warned me. And because of that terrifying, inexplicable message, our lives were saved. I will never forget the feeling of that sudden panic, the desperate need to run, and the horrifying sight of the smoke filling our house. It was a brush with something unknown, something that felt both terrifying and strangely protective. And to this day, I can't walk through a cemetery without a shiver, wondering if those silent stones hold more secrets than we can ever imagine. There's something out there on the highways, something the truckers talk about only in hushed tones. Usually after a few drinks when the night stretched long and quiet, truckers start talking. They call it the black dog. It's not just one guy saying this. I've heard it from multiple drivers who don't even know each other. Always the same story. Always the same fear. It starts on a lonely highway, past midnight, when the CB is silent and the only sound is the hum of the tires and static from the radio. Then it shows up. A big black dog, not walking across the road like any normal animal. This one runs alongside the truck, matching speed for miles. No matter how fast the truck goes, it keeps up. Its eyes are the first thing drivers notice. Not normal glowing eyes, these are pitch black, like they suck in the light around them. Just when the driver starts wondering if it's real or their imagination, the dog jumps straight into the middle of the road. That's when everything goes wrong. Drivers panic. They swerve hard, tires scream, trailers fishtail. Some lose control and crash, sliding into ditches, smashing into guardrails. The impact feels real. It sounds real. But when they get out to check, nothing. No body. No blood. No fur. Not even paw prints. Just the sound of their own heavy breathing and the tick of cooling metal. Some say the black dog is a ghost. Others say it's a demon, something ancient that haunts forgotten highways, feeding off fear. One story says a driver hit the dog head-on. He felt the thump, heard the bones crack under his wheels. But when he stopped, the dog was gone. Instead, he found deep claw marks carved into the side of his trailer, like something had tried to hang on. Most truckers learn to keep their eyes forward. Don't slow down. Don't look too long. Because if you see a pair of glowing black eyes pacing you at night, don't stare. Don't acknowledge it. Because once you do, it comes back. Again. And again. A man's voice calls my special name from behind me. This has happened while I was driving my car. It also happened while I was walking alone in the woods. The voice is always the same man's voice. Only my very close friends know and use this name for me. So, when I hear it, it feels personal and a bit creepy. The first time I heard him was in London, a long time ago, in 2008. It was just a voice from nowhere, calling my nickname. I looked around, but no one was there. I tried to forget it, to tell myself it was just my imagination. But then it happened again. One time, I was in a big store called Kmart in a town called Albemarle, in North Carolina. I was walking down an aisle, looking at things on the shelves. Suddenly, I heard the voice again, right next to my ear. He said my nickname. It was so clear, like someone was standing right beside me and speaking softly. I spun around fast, my heart pounding. But there was nobody there. Just the shelves and other people shopping who didn't seem to hear anything. That time was really scary. It made my blood run cold. Now, I sometimes hear him in my car when I'm driving alone. It always sounds like he's in the back seat, just behind me. I check the rearview mirror, but there's never anyone there. The voice is young, a man's voice, but I don't know anyone who sounds like that and would know my nickname well enough to use it. Walking alone in the forest used to be peaceful for me. Now, every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig makes me jump. Because sometimes, mixed with the sounds of nature, I hear him. His voice soft but clear, always coming from behind me. I whirl around, hoping to finally see who it is, but there's never anyone there. Just trees and shadows. I've tried to understand what's happening. Maybe it's just my mind playing tricks on me, like a strange way my thoughts are talking to myself. Or maybe it's something else, something I can't explain. Some people have suggested it could be a spirit, maybe trying to guide me. But why would it be a young man's voice, and why would he use such a personal nickname? It feels too intimate, too knowing, to be just a random spirit. It was late, around 10 at night in November 2018. My husband was driving, and we were going over a high bridge. We were probably going about 50 miles an hour. There weren't tons of cars, but we weren't completely alone on the road either. Suddenly, right in front of my window, on the passenger side, this thing was walking. It was just inches away from the car. I screamed inside my head and squeezed my eyes shut. I was sure we were going to hit it. We should have hit it. We were going so fast, and it was right there. But the impact never came. I slowly opened my eyes, my heart pounding like a drum. I looked in the side mirror to see if it had somehow stepped back. Then I looked over at my husband. He was sitting up straight, staring into the rearview mirror, his face white. I was completely stunned. I couldn't say anything. He finally broke the silence, his voice rough. "What the fuck was that?" he asked, and then, "Did you see that?" Yes, I had seen it. And when my husband saw it, it was right in front of our car too, for a split second. Then, impossibly fast, it was behind us. I even saw the car behind us swerve wildly, trying to avoid whatever we had just encountered. I have no idea what it was. The closest thing I can compare it to is Hoggle, that creature from the movie Labyrinth. It had these really ugly, twisted facial features. But they were human-like, just bigger and thicker, like a distorted mask. It wasn't very tall, maybe under 4 feet. Its skin was brown. It was wearing clothes, though I can't remember exactly what kind. And its arms were incredibly long, way too long for its body. The way it moved was terrifying. It was like a hummingbird, so fast it was a blur. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. And it was walking on two legs, like it was completely normal, completely comfortable doing so. It looked right at me, and there was something so confident, so knowing in its gaze that sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't scared. It didn't seem surprised to see us. It just was. The whole thing felt unreal, like a nightmare unfolding right in front of my eyes. What was that thing? Where did it come from? How could it move so fast? And why did it look so wrong? Even now, years later, the image of that creature walking beside our car on that dark bridge still haunts me. The memory fills me with a deep, unsettling fear of the unknown.